Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all speakers, actually, for coming all the way for their presentations here. They were very insightful, and thank you for agreeing to actually deliver this difficult, insightful, and kind of some material which we can all learn for next many generations through all the platform that we have today. So, I am Sanyukta Shrestha again. The title of my talk is Padma Ratna's Impact on Nepali Youth and the Future of Newah Movement. It becomes rather incomplete if we start talking about Padma Ratna and end somewhere without actually touching upon the future of Newah movement, because the one who started it, the one who had a vision to take the Newah community somewhere, we, I think, have the responsibility to follow it on this and take it somewhere more meaningful than where he reached. So I represent Pasa Guthi UK as the current president, founding member of Save Nepal Valley and the World Newah Organization. Firstly, I would like to remember Padma Ratna today by this final talk. I would like you all to get back to your memory and try and remember when was the first time you saw Padma Ratna somewhere, may not be physically, or maybe on as a photograph on some newspaper, or maybe on television or radio or whatever. You know, it's quite useful to actually challenge your own memory when you exactly saw him first, and how your whole experience about knowing Padma Ratna gradually developed throughout after that first event. I always remember this because I was a 7-year-old child. I was the son of a very middle-class family. Parents were uneducated, and all they had to teach me was to point their fingers at someone in the street, clad with vermilion, clad with all the abir around him, and to tell me that, look at that person, he's someone you can follow. He is someone people like you who are very young can try to, follow the principles of, and maybe reach somewhere with helping the community. That was my first sight of Padma Ratna. In that jeep, I can never forget that jeep, coming along the narrow streets of our town, of our city. So many people around him. That is why I note about the word successful is quite vague. Success and popularity is quite misunderstood. These are the misunderstood terms, I believe. Popularity is different. Success is completely different. Popularity is very easy to gain and very, very easy to lose. Success is there even after you are not there, even after you are not around. After years and years and decades and generations after generations, people still remember you. One such person is definitely Padma Ratna. I can bet. That's exactly what we started doing now. For not only me, for many, many Nepalese, this was the first sight of Padma Ratna, who had nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with community events, but they saw him first time here. Many people didn't even have radio and televisions. Televisions definitely not. Padma Ratna, as someone earlier said, Tuladars, popularly they went to Tibet, they went to Lhasa and did all the business, and they're popular for that. But I think Padma Ratna never had to go to Lhasa, because one of the first Tuladars, maybe arguably the first Tuladar, who saw the gold in his own surrounding, that gold was decaying. He saw gold in all the ethnicities, diversities around him in his own town without traveling anywhere else. But that didn't just have the glitter. I think he added a few strokes to polish that gold that we are ourselves. I like speaking in terms of visuals rather than words. So I know Padma as a very charismatic leader. The Newah community never had a very strong leader. The Nepali community at large, I think we had a very handful of people who everyone believed in, who everyone supported, regardless of any party, any belief, or any community. He was a rare individual. And his charisma was to get the followership of all these people around him, from his town to his city, in his country, and abroad. His speeches were, I can't explain what they were. They were just of their kind. These are just visuals to remember, to have a vision of what it was when he won the election, when he went around to wake his people up. Just look at this visual. 19th of April 1986. That's the exact date when this picture was taken. This was Padma historic speech after he won the election. This image is so important and powerful because to be behind him is such a great opportunity to take this picture and to show all of us what the kind of mass was listening to him. This indeed is a very powerful picture from Nepali politics. When I feel alone sometimes, I just look into these kind of pictures and listen to his interviews and his speech. I have a recording of his speech in my desktop. And when you're tired, when you feel frustrated with things around you, you just have to listen to his speech. And that does give you all that you need. So, the next question would be, what made Padma Ratna who he was? This is a question for you. I may not be able to answer this. I'm definitely not able to answer this to the full. But I would like you to question this and let's have a collective answer. What made Padma Ratna what he was? What he became for us? I think it's a great question to ask, and that's all I can do. I have one answer that you may or may not agree to, but that's my answer. Let's have my time today. I think it was suppression. It may not be only, if we think rather rationally, it may not be just the love of his language. But why would he love his language so much? Everyone loves their language. But what was the situation that, took him to that juncture where he had to have this immense love towards his language and act upon it? That was definitely because people had a different view on his language. The language, the culture, the heritage was being suppressed. And I think that's what made Padma what he was. A lot of people, I kind of interact with at least more than 100 people in a daily basis about whether or not there is a suppression in our culture, language, heritage, whatever you say it. And it is amazing. It is beyond my belief that more than 70%, more than 75% of my fellow Nepalese, they tell me there's no suppression. केही त भएको छैन तपाईले बोल्न सकिहाल्नुहुन्छ जापान जानुस् बोल्नुस् आफ्नो भाषामा कसले रोकेछ तपाईलाई बाटोमा बोल्नुस् यहाँ बोल्नुस् सभामा गर्नुस् no one is going to stop you. I know that, but I'm going to show you where the suppression started from and how it is going on till date. It is there, invariably, unbelievably to many of you, but it's definitely there. I'm a kind of person who likes to talk with pictures as well as evidences. This is the history of suppression in Nepal from before 1990. Right from the records from 1770, when different marginalized groups, communities and indigenous cultures, they faced suppression through the region, through the state, through the people in power, through people in political power, I would say. Up till 1979, when the first movement from the Newah community in Kathmandu for their language, Nepal Pasa, was carried out. That was 1979. That was a brilliant year because I can only remember anything in my life from just that year. I was born in that year and a week before the whole Bintana thing happened. So it's been 40 years, 4 decades of people's struggle to save their language, to have their rights to speak, to have their rights to get the equal respect and treatment for their language in the community, in the country, basically. And I would say I'm the living example. In the last 40 years, in the 4 decades, many movements have taken place after 1990, after 1979. Many activities for the language has taken place. And I would remind you, when I first met Padma on the doorsteps of my mentor, Dr. Sanyukta Shrestha's residence, I knocked the door because I was given this opportunity to actually carry out a conference, a kind of a social media conference. People could ask questions to him. That was in 2010. Yeah, and I knocked the door. He opened the door because I think Tadazu and I were busy in the kitchen, and I said, "Namaste. My name is Sanyukta Shrestha. I'm Mota Isto Falano, right? Mota Joint Secretary of Pasa PPGUK, right? So that was my kind of very young, kind of expression. And his first line was, "Josal bada bhanna aउँछ होला नि तपाईलाई, right? नेपाली भाषा बोल्न आउँदैन? Josal bada आउँछ होला नि. यसलाई Josal bada भन्छ, यो भन्नुस्, right?" And I was like, okay, this is going to be difficult. This day is going to be difficult, and it has been difficult since then. I wish he was here today, and I could tell him, "Josalpa, jibuna Sanyukta Shrestha kha, ale jid balaka Newah bhasa khalaya phu, chinapa." 8 years have passed, 9 years have passed, and this is my learning, thanks to Padma and many people like him in Pasa PPGUK. Anyway, let's move ahead. The next question would be, what did Padma Ratna initiate? What did he start? What was something that was not there and started after him? How did he bring awareness in the Newah community for their culture, heritage and language? What did he start? These are some of the pictures that I have from that day. Nepal Samvat 1100, that is 1979 AD, when this took place. The first Bintana rally in Kathmandu, which Padma Ratna and his friends started. The Bintana rally, which is still carried out by all these youngsters and elders and everyone in Kathmandu. Actually, for people who don't know anything about politics or have got nothing to do with Newah movement or anything, they know just one thing, that is the Bintana rally. Whether it be Newah or non-Newahs or anyone, even the foreigners, they know what is Bintana rally, what is Bintuna. That is the word, the most popular in Nepal Bhasa today. Actually, I think they created this artificial word because my mom and dad they don't know what is Bintuna. They know Tarimam, they know Namaste and all that, but Bintuna is relatively a new word. I think that was important to create a few new words like Subha, Bintuna and everything. The Bintuna rally, as you can see, the date there in the picture is 1100. That was the day. That was the first Bintuna rally, definitely. Look at the faces of these people. They're not angry. They're celebrating their language. They're celebrating their culture. And this is one day in the year when they come to the streets. The next slide. This is going to be interesting because it's going to be a mix of everything. These are some of the graphs to show you what has been the participation of different ethnic minorities in Nepal. In terms of the first graph is of the representation in the parliament from 1959 to 2008. The second one is the representation of ethnic minorities in bureaucracy, in bureaucratic roles in Nepal from 1959 to 2009. Finally, the third one, the biggest one there on the right, is one of the latest graphs, which I received only 2 days before the slides were made. This is from the elections and the representations in the FPTP by different ethnicities in Nepal. The top line in the graph has always been, as you can see, the Khas area. One interesting thing is, most of my best friends in my life have been Khas area people. And it is amazing how they appreciate my take and my support for my community, the Newah community. What I mean to say is Khas area are not the problem. The thought process that we have in our society that Newahs are against any other community is the problem. I have a very good relationship with all the Khas area people. They have always supported me and I have always supported them thoroughly, all the time. They've been great friends. But these graphs are here to show you what has been the status of the ethnic minorities here in the parliament, in the bureaucratic roles, and in the elections. Things are definitely changing after the constitution, after the movements, and after the first Bintuna rally, if I may say. By 2017, the lines, the distance between these lines are still, they need to meet somewhere. And that is going to be our dream country, where there is no minority, where there is no majority. There is just one big line which is made by all of us together. Now, the question, whether there is suppression or not. This is a big question because even most of the Newahs ask me. It is very interesting because on a daily basis, lots of youngsters, they send me pictures in Messenger, especially after the year 2016 when I made that movie of The Legend of Sankara. They think I know so much, whereas I don't. On a daily basis, I ask so many different people like Shasi Mahaju, Vijay Dai, Sachidan Dai, Ojesh, and even Dr. Gelnar. I send so many questions to these people on a daily basis because I need to learn, and I'm learning. The 8 years have not been easy. Youngsters, they send me old photographs of Padma that I've never seen. And they ask me who is this guy? Why are policemen around him? They're interested to know, and it's quite understandable. Why is this guy in the middle of policemen, this crowd, and sometimes he's cheered up, sometimes he's strangled, what is happening here? Is he a hero? Is he a villain? What is he? It's a very interesting question. And I always tell them, and it's easy for me to tell that because I've met him here in London. Had I been in Nepal, I would have never met him. I know. I would have only seen him on the street. I would have never got the opportunity to know about him if I was not in Guthi, maybe. And I tell them, go and read such and such thing. Firstly, go and read Gelner's interview. That is a must. You will never understand what is Padma Tuladar, who is Padma Tuladar, what is his movement, if you have never read Gelner's interview in your life. You will never learn about him. That is the basic, that is the ABC of whatever we need to learn about him. So, the question still remains, is there a suppression? And people, the youngsters always complain to me, right? They say, okay, यो ठुलो ठुलो नेताहरू छ नेपालमा युवा नेता भन्छ एकदम चाहिँ 60 वर्ष नागिसकेको युवा नेताहरू हाम्रो चाहिँ छापछापी छ नेपालमा हैन अनि त्यसपछि हाम्रो पालो कहिले आउँछ basically that's what they want no but the first question they ask me is यो ठुलो चाहिँ संस्थाहरू चाहिँ political parties and everything like why don't they give space to us हामीलाई ठाउँै छैन त्यहाँ इभेन्टमा गयो भने सब बुढाहरू हुन्छ त्यहाँ कपाल फुलेको मान्छेहरु सबै अगाडि बसेको हुन्छ हाम्रो त ठाउँै छैन त्यहाँ where are we and this is a valid question I try my best to answer but I know I can't this is a difficult question to answer because it is complicated that is where I think we need to hit that is a problem that is the biggest problem I believe for the Newah movement to actually get somewhere and that is the space we need to create for the youngsters and something is definitely happening about which I'll be talking in the rest of this presentation. So, And my answer used to be, there is a very popular Hindi proverb, and it has to be said in Hindi. I shouldn't be translating it in Nepali, all the people do it. प्यासा कुएं के पास जाता है, कुआं प्यासा के पास नहीं जाता है. I used to tell them this. The one who's thirsty should go to the well, to the water source, whatever, and the water is not going to come, to you if you're thirsty. That used to be my answer. But I was so wrong. I was so wrong. In the last 5 years of working with the youngsters, now I'm going to be 40 this year, and I'm so proud that I work with teenagers. In the last 5 years, I've worked with so many teenagers from Nepal, and actually, it was in the last 5 years I learned the most about what is the problem with Newah movement. This is my biggest claim. I learned the most about it because I work with them. So my answer to them was so incorrect. I know it now because the things have changed. The Kua has to go to Pyasa. You know why? Because they are not the Pyasas. We are the Pyasas. Our movement is going nowhere. We are not being able to attract them. It means we are the Pyasas. We are the people who are thirsty for progress. We are the people who need progress. We should go to them and bring them in. That is what I've understood. And I was so wrong. There are many things that I thought 5 years ago and which I think today are wrong. And these wrongdoings of myself are going to be the basis of this presentation today. I have got lots of these evidences. I've got archives and archives of evidences to show you that suppression exists. The image at top there, on the top there, is of Machindra Bahal in Patan. It should definitely have a different name in Nepal Pasa, but these days we call it Machindra Bahal. There's no way it should be called Machindra Bahal, I can bet you. Yes. That's the real name. So there are less people now around us who know the real names. Okay? Now, my purpose of getting this picture here is not to tell you that what is the real name. There are so many examples. But you know what is happening in this Bahal? This is so big. It's so populated and so many people from the community go there. Okay, that's T-Bahal. Thank you. Let's carry on. Right. In Teba, people complain these days that public are speaking in Nepal Bhasha. What is this? Is this right? People who spoke in Nepal Bhasha built this monument, this Bahal, this thing, for God's sake. Let them speak in their language. This is from 2016, and I had a long debate with people who complained about it. Unfortunately, publicly in social media. That is why I have a very bad impression in social media of getting all the complaints and bad words. The next one there, just have a look at the line. It is a report, it's a government report for the improvement of the ward office in somewhere in Lalitpur. कर्मचारीहरूले नेवारीमा कुरा गरेकोले अन्य जातिहरूलाई अप्ठ्यारो भएकोले हेर्नुस् है नेपालीमा भन्छ नि राइट सुधार गर्नुपर्ने विषयहरुमा these are the things to be improved. Okay, I get you now. I've got lots of these evidences. I can't just do it here because I've got limited time. And right. Okay, it's there. We understood, right? Let's move on. Now let's move on to the next part of this presentation, which is the impact of Padma Ratna on Nepali youth and the future of Newah movement. This is the latest picture from the last Bintuna rally. People had mixed feelings, like Padma Ratna passed away a short period of time before the Bintuna rally had to be carried out. So all the elders, mostly the elders, I think they voted for, no, we shouldn't have the Bintuna rally because our leader's gone. We should mourn, we should be sad. We shouldn't be going to the streets and raising our voice. I don't know how fair it is, but the youngsters decided differently. They I would say we. We decided differently because we think Padma Tuladar hasn't left us. We think Padma Tuladar is in all of us. Padma Tuladar should be always there in Vintunai Rally, and he will be always there in Vintunai Rally as long as we are there. Padma Tuladar is not someone who will pass away. With that decision, we went with all these placards. We drew his portraits. We found his pictures from the internet. We printed them. And another interesting slide I should have shown you earlier of the process of designing all these placards. That was beautiful. Because in that process, we got all these new young people involved and learning about who is Padma Tuladar, what is the movement, why should we be going to the Vintunai Rally. Because going to the Vintunai Rally and shouting has been a matter of fun for most of the people in the community, which it should not be. I think Vintunai Rally is and was started by Padma Tuladar for a cause, and that cause shouldn't disappear. Before we move on to the impact, let's have a look at this. Padma Tuladar, when he was in the UK, let's remember him the day we met here in London. Pasa Guthi UK, London invited him, and he was there giving a very powerful speech at Puchah. That was my first Puchah in London, which I attended and also organized. There are so many different roles we do in Guthi all at the same time. But that speech was so powerful. No one was talking, everyone was listening, and that is Padma Tuladar for you. The middle image is of the World Newah organization. So it's the day of his establishment. In the same university here, we gathered from around the world, hosted by Pasa Guthi UK, and the World Newah organization was formed in the same university, in the same building, but in a different room. He was our chief guest. The third image is from that fortunate day when David Gellner again invited him to his university for a talk. There, I was again given this, I would not say responsibility, there was an opportunity to actually take the video of him delivering the speech. We cannot forget that day, because whatever we learned from the interview, he was saying all those things in his own words in front of us. And that was a very powerful speech. For hours and hours, I think, if I remember well, David, was it 3.5 hours or something? Was it 3 hours? I think it was. It was more than 2 hours, definitely. It was definitely more than 2 hours. And we were listening. His tears were there, as usual. And we were listening. And we didn't want it to stop. We didn't want him to stop. He had so much to say about all these years. And there was so much for us to learn. The same day, we came back to Kingston. And that was the day when I got this opportunity again to actually show him the kind of works I want to do in my life. I wanted to make the first animated movie of Nepal. And in 2010, I showed him what is happening in this thing, what I'm trying to do in this laptop. I was showing him like what kind of animated films I want to make that represents our culture. And I think he asked me like, "Oh, you quite सकिन्छ त?" And I was like, "Time त धेरै लाग्छ." यो त एकदम गाह्रो भइरहेछ. But I will let you know. I definitely let you know. Between this 2010 and 2016, I had many emails with him asking him a hell lot of questions. Like what is this, what is that, blah 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 blah. And also, if it was urgent, I would call him directly, and he was always available with all his advices and everything. That was in 2016 when we released the movie. He sent me a message saying, "Sanyukta Bazu." He calls me Sanyukta Bazu. I call him Padma Ba. Right? Many thanks for the invitation. Try my best to attend the release program. He actually went there. But you know what happened? The hall had no provisions for someone. There was no lift, basically. And his legs were so painful he wouldn't be able to climb the stairs. So he returned. Imagine situations in Nepal. Someone like Padma Tuladar goes to watch a film and he has to go back to his house because it's only stairs and he can't climb. I wish I was there. I would have carried him up. Anyway, so the influence in the wider community. So that was the personal experience I just shared as an influence in Nepali youth. But let's look at the bigger picture now. Let's look at the influence in the wider community of Nepali youth, and how they're redefining the Newah movement. As a founding member of Newah Valley, and with a team of mostly the youngsters with teenagers around, it has been a great learning experience for someone like me, and to let them know who was Padma Ratna and what his movement was. Let's move on. We did something like this. We started making placards for that day. People learned Nepal Pasa, few words of Nepal Pasa here and there. People learned what was the movement, and they went to the streets, of which the picture you've already seen. This was the invitation we made from Newah Valley. We invited people. There were a lot of people who turned up. Even Durgal also turned up. He was there. All these guys, they're brilliant guys. They're very young and they want to learn. And they want to be a part of the movement. And they should be given the space. That's my point. Now, where is this movement heading to? It's not always been for the language, which one of our earlier speakers have already made clear. It's not been always for the language. Yes, it started with language. No, it's not going to end with language. It's not been about language all the time, but it's been about many different things. Because Bhasa Masa Jati Mai, this is the very popular saying by our poet, Mahazu. And we keep retelling that to our youngsters. If the language is alive, the Jati will be alive. Your community, your culture, your everything, your heritage will be alive. But is it true? How universal it is and how timeless it is, I don't know. This is a question I want to ask you. When there is no language, there will be no Jati. Fine. But when there is no Jati, what will happen? If there is no Jati, I mean, like, hypothetical. If there are no people, if they don't have their land, if they don't have the people, if they don't have the community, the language needs the community. The language needs its speakers. Every day, I think more than 10 languages die in this world, which has 7,000 languages. Professor Gelner, when he was at Satymohan Joshi's residence for the first time, I had this opportunity to be with Joshi for 2 weeks at my residence, and he used to tell me a lot about his experience with Gelner. अनि उहाँले भन्नुहुन्थ्यो सत्येन्द्र जोशीजीले, डेभिड सबभन्दा पहिला मेरो घरमा आउँदाखेरि उसले मलाई के भन्यो भन्दाखेरि, अबको 50 वर्षमा चाहिँ नेपाल भाषा तिमीहरूको म जान्छ, यो सकिन्छ, यो गोना एन्ड, नेपाल भाषा चाहिँ अब 50 वर्षमा सकिन्छ. That was 30 years back. So I think according to David, we have got 20 years remaining. So we have to work hard, basically, and that's what we want to do. We're trying to do, and that is actually a very good insight. This is not laughing matter, really. If we leave it like this, I think what you mean to say was, if the state of the language in which it was 30 years ago, if it was left like that, it would definitely die in the next 50 years because its speakers were not there. So what I mean to say, with taking an example of David's statement, is if there are no speakers, what will happen to the language, and why the speakers won't be there? Because the speakers, when they move from one place to the other, when they're displaced, they won't be speaking their language for sure. And that is exactly what has happened. Why people stop using their language is not for fun. It's not because Nepali, the other languages were much easier. Because they were moving places. They went from their place to somewhere else where there were less speakers of that language, right? So there will be less speakers in total, obviously. So the Newah movement, where it is heading, the present. Let's have a look. So at the risk of my own presidency of Pasa Guthi, I have to now carry on. Right. The Newah movement. This is a picture from, I think around March in 2018, from Khona. That's the actual name. We call it coconut now. Now, my purpose is not to show you what are the wrong things that are going on. My purpose is to show you how we can make it right. So, the Newah movement, now the youth in Kathmandu and around, and the kind of Newah movement that they have envisioned is to actually safeguard their heritage, is to actually safeguard their language, culture, and heritage, and also the place they live in. Because if they are out of their place, all the language, culture, and heritage are gone, basically. This is the rough map of things where the problems are. The red line is the ring road, as we know, the inner. The black one is for the outer ring road proposed. And the problem, where the problem lies, is the outer ring road is actually going through and through and through all these different sites of heritage where the indigenous communities have their settlement. Now, the problem is, if this outer ring road actually penetrates all these community territory, the culture and the heritage in those areas are in problem, are definitely in problem, and they have to move out from there and leave their language behind, and they leave their culture behind and heritage behind. That is for sure. Now, and some of you might be thinking, like, why this guy is talking about this kind of thing when it's Padma Ratna's memorial? But I have evidence, video evidence for you to actually show Padma Ratna was supporting this. Padma Ratna was supporting the movement, the youth movement, the Newah movement against the displacement of the local community. He supported the movement for saving the heritage, for saving the local heritage. And most of the popular things here are, we all know about the problems that Kathmandu is going through, the problem that Bungmati and Kokna are going through. Now, if you look at the outer ring road here, the dotted red line, dotted red circles are the areas of possible conflict because they coincide with the indigenous settlements. And this map was actually made in 2016. If Ghanshyam sir remembers, in the seminar, it was made in 2016. Was it 16? I think you were there. Sachin Dai was also there in the seminar. And this map was prepared then. And there was no conflict in Kokana and all these areas. There was only Kasta Mandap and Rani Pukuri issue going on. But we made this map to show people that these are going to be the conflict areas, and which is actually happening now. And in the next slide, I will show you how these predicted conflict zones are becoming our day-to-day reality. The first, 21st of February 2018, Maitigar, Kathmandu. Save Newah Valley representatives, they went there with all their placards and everything, but as you can see, this was against the inappropriate, this is not a movement against development. This is a movement against inappropriate road expansion that affects indigenous communities negatively. That's all it is. Note the date, 21st February. And I'll tell you later why these dates are important. Next, a little farther from there, Baneshwar, Kathmandu, 28th of March 2018. This happened in our lifetime. This happened in our lifetime, for God's sake. People are trying to save their land, and the state was behaving them very nicely. If this is not suppression, then what it is? Next, Kokna, 31st of March 2018, Save Newah Valley representatives. All the teenagers and young people standing there when there were no Kapalphaleko people there around. Okay? Kokna, 31st March. The other side was with an assembly of army, Nepal army. This side, 18, 19 years old youngsters. There is no match, obviously, but there is a wide gap between the power between the capabilities, between everything, between age, and also, more importantly, there's a huge gap between their understanding of the local indigenous culture and heritage. 1st of April, Kokana, again. This was the other fortunate event where, when the World Newah Organization seminar, a conference was running there, one of the days, I remember, on 1st of April, the representatives from World Newah Organization went there in Kokana and actually supported this movement. Mr. Krishna Chakra is seen on the far left, sitting. This was the first event when Save Nepal Valley and World Newah Organization, the elders and the youngsters, came face to face. And I was getting reports of what is happening there. Things were not going on nicely. I'm like, so this is the kind of problem we have. And we have to face this. We have to tackle this. Unless and until there is a good interface, unless and until the experienced and the energetic come together, the movement is going nowhere. That is for sure. Lastly, Chobar, 17th of January 2019, last week. Most of these photographs will never be in mainstream media, but everywhere in social media, right? In Chobar, for the dry port, when the Prime Minister was there laying of the foundation, the indigenous people contested the idea. They said, we don't need a dry port here because it's going to affect our community. It can be done somewhere else. Why it cannot be done somewhere else, I don't know. But the kind of retaliation, the kind of movement there was organic. If you see the pictures carefully, they were local people. They were not people coming from anywhere around. But they had, but when you see the pamphlets and everything, it is understood that it was planned. So local people, and with a plan, to save their land against what is happening in the name of development. This is interesting. And this is definitely a part of the Newah movement. This is definitely the part of the movement of not only Newahs, but everyone who supports the indigenous communities and their heritage and culture. So today we are here. I've got no pictures from beyond 17th January, and I wish there would be less pictures to show like these. My purpose is not to show you what is going wrong here. My purpose is to actually find out how we can follow the principles of Padma as a mediator of mediators. The problem is not with people who want to develop. The problem is not with the people who want to save their land. The problem lies in not having a mediator. The problem lies in not having them face to face, not having them coming to talks on the table and find out and consult with the local people who own their culture and what the problem is. If that is being taken care, I'm sure there will be no photographs like this, there will be no problems, and there will be so less for me to explain in the name of suppression. And the Newah movement will be not a movement, but a history, which is what we exactly want. We want it to be a part of history. We want our future to be brighter, or much brighter than these darker pictures. The future of Newah movement. So these are the guiding principles that the Newah youth today stick with. Not reactive, but proactive. So why I was showing you the pictures? Before the problems happened in those areas in Nepal, around Kathmandu, the youngsters were already there at least 2 or 3 weeks before. So this means we don't believe in reactive movement. We believe in proactive movement. Before, the problem with the Newah movement has been, someone is suppressing our language, so let's go and say Bintuna. That's so wrong. Before the problem comes, you should actually make things right, like be aware. It shouldn't be a reactive movement, because in that way, you'll be always reacting to what is going on in your community. You have to be proactive. You have to foresee the problems. That is how vision works. Secondly, welcoming of newer generation of Newah. This is a must. Thirdly, inclusive of all minorities. When we keep on saying Newah, 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 it's not going to work. This is not the problem of Newahs. Yes, they have a stake. Yes, they created so much of heritage and they own it. They don't own it. Everyone owns it. They create it, but not just for them, for everyone who wants to dream a life in the valley. It's for everyone to cherish, everyone to appreciate, everyone to save for the future. So, all the minorities, of which we should be inclusive, based on rationalism and evidence. I see many of these speeches where people carry on talking about emotions. It's not going to work. At least for the young people, it's not going to work. We have listened to this for ages and ages. We have to talk in terms of rational ideas and more of evidences, because no one believes you if you just have emotions to share, because that looks like more of your problem, right? Even that song, which one of our earlier presenters played for Padma Ratna, Haki Kobi, cry as much as you can and all that. I don't get this idea. Why you want Padma Ratna to cry? Why you want anyone to cry? Those should be crying who are on the wrong side. I don't mean to say like someone should have a last laugh, but everyone should be smiling. Everyone should be having a good time with our language, culture, and heritage. No one should be crying. So these emotions should be put aside, I believe. And we should be talking in terms of rational ideas and evidences, if we have to make any sense to at least the young people. Lastly, opposed to all forms of repression. This is all explained earlier. Next. This is going to end soon now. What does Padma Ratna mean to us? This montage says everything, I believe. There are a few words there, but you don't even need to read them. This is what Padma Ratna means to everyone. Padma Ratna is there in all of us. So, when the Bhintuna rally starts that day, when we are around there, Padma Ratna will be always there around. All these youngsters, all these teenagers and everyone, they believe in Padma Ratna. A piece of Padma Ratna is in all of them. And to end this long and boring lecture, I'm going to present to you a short video of what they have to say, of what my team has to say, as people who are also part of the movement, who want to lead the movement, who want to give a new definition to the Newah movement.
Padma Ratna samane janago tho Mount Rally asane tenitengudu asana jibonga ani bongala basantu rona tho Mount Rally ko chaigu जानकारी दिया तो ना अलि साइडबाट गरिदिनु है न यो के जुल अलि डिपा भया बसन्तपुरी सुरुजी थनथु र्याली फर्स्ट डे पद्म रत्नको जुन जीवनभरिको योगदान भनेको नै एउटा पहिचानको लागि भएको थियो हैन त्यही पहिचान लिने दौरानमा नै यो नुदको जुन नेवारको पहिचान छ त्यो चाहिँ स्थापना गर्नको लागि उहाँले सफल हुनुभयो अब उहाँले यस्तो गाह्रो गरेर सफल पार्नु भएको जुन अभियान छ त्यो अभियानलाई मौन रूपमा भए पनि समर्थन गर्नुपर्छ भनेर चाहिँ हामीले नुदको र्यालीमा चाहिँ मौन रूपमा भए पनि र्याली गर्नुपर्छ भनेर चाहिँ गरेको
To keep the culture alive and the memory of our leaders.
झिको आन्दोलन म मुद्दा त झिनुको पुस्ता ललहना बोलङ्के मागु त्याका
उहाँको अभिभावक त गुमेको अवस्थामा उहाँको योगदानको सम्मानको लागि
उहाँले सिकाएको नेपाल सम्बन्धको महत्त्व अब मेरो जिम्मेवारी हो
He was a beacon for democracy and human rights, values that we will carry forward in the Newah movement.
Padma Ratna Tuladar Juchi, Dati Madidungusa, Nepal Sangwa Dea Sangwa Jima Daigu Bekaya Moksana Kha, Azuna Kha, Montunana Kha.
उहाँले दिनुभएको नेपाल सम्बन्धको लागि योगदान हामी मिलेर अगाडि बढाउनेछौँ
To support the contribution done by Padma Ratna Tuladar in preserving and promoting Nepal Bhasha and Newah Sanskriti.
So basically my intention was to show you how Padma Ratna is still among everyone. That should be the end of it. I apologize for anything that I might have said which you deem inappropriate, but in my views they were all relevant. In my views they were all the aspects of Padma Ratna that we should not miss, at least today. And I'm sure if there is any heaven, Padma Ratna is definitely watching us today. And I just wish he was here and I could speak to him in Nepal Bhasha, which is not going to be the case. But thank you, everyone.